All right, who are we here with today?
Greg Marcell Dixon.
All right, why are you here today?
I'm invited to speak here at the FBA Expo. I was invited by Tariq Nasheed, which I'm honored, and I'm here to speak on education because I've been a public school teacher, an award-winning public school teacher. I'm very proud of that for the past 18 years in South Carolina, which is one of the lowest ranked states for education in America. And my district, my county from where I'm from, Jasper County, is the lowest performing district in South Carolina. And yet I've been able to break that cycle,
Wow.
having my student meet or exceed in reading and social studies and writing 75% or higher on average.
What are some of your concerns with the current structure and circumstances of our American education system?
I am running for federal office on a reparations platform.
Okay.
And what is really detrimental to our educational system is really a reflection of what's detrimental to our society overall. We expect teachers to shoulder the burden of what should be taken care of in the house, but really you have broken schools that are a product of broken communities, and usually you have broken communities, you have elected leaders that have failed to do policies to help repair and address the issues in those communities. And in black communities, we're still going through a legacy that starts with chattel slavery, but it goes through sharecropping, redlining, Jim Crow, lynch mob, black land theft, exclusion from federal programs such as the GI Bill, the Homestead Act, the New Deal, Social Security Act. These things did not end on paper until 1960s, or in some states like South Carolina, the 1970s.
Yeah.
So you have 400 years of this government sanctioned terrorism of black Americans. And when you go to our communities, you can still very well see the legacy of that. So my plan with reparations is to repair this legacy of damage, and that will take care of the greater systemic issues. You will not repair the issues in public education until you repair the systemic issues in America. And the need for reparations is one of those main issues. Not the only, but it's one of the main ones.
Do you mind sharing what federal office you're currently running for?
I am running for South Carolina U.S. District 6. So it's for the United States House of Representatives, South Carolina District 6.
Awesome. All right. And another question for you. How do you think FBA's foundational Black Americans can continue to and resist and counter systematic oppression?
We have to run for office. And then we have to support those running for office so that they get in office. I have always said, people like to say, oh, y'all don't know how the government works. Well, okay, so what? A person doesn't need to know how the government works in order to realize that it's not working for them. And with Black Americans, we don't need to know how the government works in order to see that it has worked against us for centuries. And yet, when they stopped on paper doing things to terrorize us, they never repaired the damage from the terrorism. So we need to run for office. I know a lot of us like to say no tangibles, no vote. I support that to the extent where we don't just give away our vote and not get anything in return. But in order to get the tangibles, we have to have the candidate who is going to offer those tangibles. We already see it's not going to be none of these other groups. They don't care about us. And it ain't even going to be a lot of other Black Americans who don't care about us. It has to be those of us who realize what we're due and realize that it's policies to give us what we're due. So we have to run for office, and we have to support those vigorously running for office. If we're just going to wait for some good-hearted person to come along and do policies for us, it's not going to happen. And even if we run for office and don't win, we are putting pressure on those in office, realizing that these foundational Black Americans, freemen, Black Americans, are descendants of American slaves. They're getting activated, and we better do something because they are serious about getting the reparations and the other tangibles they are due.
All right. How do you feel FBAs can embrace their culture better?
I feel we need to learn it, first of all. Now, a lot of us know our culture to a great extent. You know, we know that a lot of the musical forms most popular in the world come from FBA. We know that we have a lot of FBA inventors, but we know the basics. We need to go beyond the superficial level. When I was a teacher, and I always, during Black History Month throughout the year, I always made it a point to give specific deeper information about Black American history, like Black inventors. But not just that. When we read these parts about slavery, they would give this little superficial thing about slavery. Mm-hmm. And I will always show people that slavery was not just picking cotton. It was building some of the oldest cities in America, building a large percentage of the railroads. Some of these crops that we were growing, from sugar to cotton to rice, some of those industries, like rice, for example, would not exist without slave labor, and it was the first source of significant wealth for the British colonies in America. And to this day, still brings in billions of dollars. The ports we built still brings in billions of dollars. We need to know, we get to know our culture better by learning our history better and appreciating our present.
Yep. A lot of people don't realize that our capital was built by slaves themselves.
Yes, we were the foundation of Wall Street, the first stocks, the first bonds.
One last question for you. Who are particular historical FBA figures that you think our youth should look up to?
Oh, there's so many of them. One, I love Nina Simone. I know that's not a person people.
I love Nina Simone
Right,
too.
people don't think of her. That bothers me. She never gets her due in music, when she was a pioneer. She never gets her due though as a civil rights activist. But hell was an activist. She was a warrior. She believed by any means necessary, like Malcolm X, and she meant that. During the civil rights movement, when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went to meet her after she performed Mississippi Goddamn in, I think it was Alabama, after the bombing of the church, she performed in front of a majority white crowd in Alabama. And in the song, the part where she says, "You're all going to die." Mm-hmm. She was saying it to a majority white crowd in Alabama. Like, this woman had no fear. And then that same day, when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came to meet her, she stuck her hand out and said to him, "I'm not nonviolent." She said, "Don't come to me with that nonviolent stuff." Mm-hmm. And he just smiled and he accepted it. During the civil rights movement, they were saying, peaceful, nonviolent protests. She was like, "No, hell no. Burn it down till we get what we want." I'm of the mindset that violence should be the last resort, but I am of the mindset too that you cannot tell Black Americans to be nonviolent when we are in a country whose government has always been brutally, sadistically violent towards us. So I just like the fact that this was a woman who could have easily she had a successful career, but she could have been revolutionary in regards to her music career. Absolutely. But she sacrifices to stand up for her people, being one of the few who boldly condemned this nation strongly. In Mississippi Goddamn, she got all this backlash for it from white people, and she doubled down on it. And she said in the interview, it was like shooting 50 bullets back at them. So I like that fearlessness she had, and I like the fact she was willing to sacrifice, where she could have had a much wealthier career. So she's one, but there's so many I can name, but that's one that always inspires me when I realize that, she sacrificed materially, standing up and speaking up unapologetic for her people. And she didn't protest in the way that white America felt was acceptable. Yeah. She protested in the way that she felt was necessary, saying that, okay, we do it peacefully, fine. But if not by peace, then we're going to use the same violence that's used against us to get what we need to.
Sir. Thank you for being with us today. It was a pleasure, sir. Yep.
Thank you.
God bless you.